Welcome to the virtual premiere of Lights in the Sky, a multimedia piano concert inspired by the cosmos, created in collaboration with the University of Michigan Museum of Natural History and the Planetarium and Dome Theater. My name is Melissa Coppola, and I am a pianist and doctoral candidate at the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. As a graduate student and performer, my dissertation research has focused heavily on multimedia and interdisciplinary elements in live piano performance. The presentation you're about to see today is a production of an interdisciplinary concert series that I call Perspective, which seeks to re-envision the tradition of piano recitals by creating immersive, multisensory experiences and disrupting expectations of what a classical music concert can be. My idea for Lights in the Sky came in the summer of 2019 when I visited the Museum of Natural History, and I decided to check out a planetarium show. I was so inspired by the beautiful imagery and the peaceful experience of curiously gazing upwards into space. And as a musician, of course, I couldn't help but think of music that would help complement these visuals. Later on, I was introduced to Planetarium manager Matthew Linke and museum director Amy Harris, and we began to plan for a concert in the Dome Theater. Logistics were detailed and complex. Considerations I never had to think about surfaced, like whether or not a grand piano would fit in the space, if seats would need to be removed, if the floor would even support the weight of the instrument, and if the reflective lacquer finish might compromise the dome's projections. But despite it all, we were able to make arrangements to premiere the Dome's first classical music concert in March 2020. About a week before the concert, of course, COVID-19 quarantined us all, and the program was postponed until further notice. Now, more than a year later, I'm very fortunate to be able to realize this virtual concert at the Duderstadt Video Studio here on North Campus. The music you will hear will be performed along with visuals generated from the U of M Planetarium and Dome Theater, as well as images from NASA and from the European Southern Observatory in Germany. First up on the program is the Milky Way Sonata by living composer Urmas Sisask from Estonia. One of his major inspirations for his compositions is astronomy, as he happens to be an amateur astronomer. In this piece, you will hear melodies composed with what Sisask calls his planetal scale, a very mysterious collection of notes and pitches based on the trajectories of planets in the solar system. This piece is a four-hand work, which means that two pianists play together on one piano. So joining me on this piece is Ann Arbor pianist Justin Snyder. In the Milky Way Sonata, Sisask utilizes what pianists call extended technique, which involves reaching inside of the piano to pluck, strike, scrape, or mute strings. I think it's pretty effective at creating a spacey ambiance. What you'll see projected behind me is a journey that starts from Earth and goes to the very outer edges of the universe and then back again. Thank you so much to Matthew Linke and Mike George at ENS Digistar for their assistance in creating this animation. Hungarian-Austrian composer György Ligeti was a very influential figure in contemporary music. He gained worldwide recognition after his music was featured in the soundtrack to 2001: A Space Odyssey. The piece you're about to hear right now is Piano Etude No. 5, nicknamed Arc-en-Ciel, which translates to rainbow in French. I love the beautiful, ethereal, colorful sounds that this piece creates, and I think it fits perfectly with this visual from our planetarium. This animation is a representation of astrometry, the distances of stars and colorful nebulae from our position on Earth, measured by the European Hipparcos satellite mission. French Impressionist composer Claude Debussy was one of the most influential composers of the late 19th and early 20th century. His most famous work, Clair de Lune, would have fit perfectly into this program with images of the moon, but I was feeling more inspired by the sun. So today you'll see images of the moon provided by NASA of solar flares and coronal mass ejections paired with Debussy's Prelude No. 12, Feux d'artifice, which translates to fireworks in French. The piece depicts a brilliant fireworks display over Paris, and Debussy captures the furious streaks of rockets and their colorful explosions in the night sky. Here, I think he's also captured the power and fury of our closest star, the sun. The next piece, Orizzonte, for piano and electronics, was written by living composer Missy Mazzoli. Orizzonte, which translates to horizon in Italian, was written by the composer during an artistic residency in which the piano she was provided with was left outdoors for over a year in an art installation. Because of this, the instrument had only a handful of working keys, and so she wrote the piece with only those. The video you'll see is from the European Southern Observatory from one of their dome shows called Cycle, which utilizes 360 time-lapse photography of Earth's majestic horizons and skies. The ESO advertises this as a subtle meditation on how a small shift in our perception of time can heighten our awareness of the intricate ecosystem surrounding us. Credit for this visual goes to the ESO and to photographer Eric Freeman. George Crumb is a living American composer of contemporary and avant-garde music. He's known for exploring unusual timbres and extended techniques, which you'll definitely hear in Celestial Mechanics. Celestial Mechanics is a suite of what he calls cosmic dances for two pianists. So Justin will be joining me again to perform Alpha Centauri, the first movement of this collection, named after the closest star and planetary system to us here on Earth. The strange sounds that you're about to hear in this piece, I think, work perfectly with an animation of the formation of the solar system from our U of M dome, produced by E&S Digistar. Now, some more music from composer Urmas Sisask. This piece is called 7 Musical Moments, the Pleiades. The Pleiades is inspired by celestial movement and ancient mythology, and envisions the 7 daughters of Atlas dancing spring into summer, each in her own personal style. Along with the piece, the composer includes a myth that explains the creation of Earth and the movement of the luminous stars clustered around there. In Sisask's concerts, he has been known to invite guest storytellers to tell these myths. And so, to keep with this tradition, you will hear some of the Estonian legend along with the performance of the piece. Each movement has been paired with a curated visual to illustrate the mood and character. This collection of animations and images come from our own U of M Planetarium, NASA, and ESO. You'll see the Pleiades cluster, a journey through a wormhole, the Taurus constellation, Earth, and a hyperspeed journey through space.
On crisp, cold winter nights and early spring evenings, a heavenly body appears in the skies of our northern hemisphere. It's a formation of around 3,000 stars close together with a gently glowing fog in the background. About 6 or 7 stars, the youngest members, are visible to the naked eye. This glorious grouping, located in the Taurus constellation, is known as the Pleiades or the Seven Sisters, also called the Heavenly Sieve by old Estonians and designated as M45 by astronomers. For thousands of years, the stars of the Pleiades have fascinated viewers and marked the beginning of seasons. In Greek mythology, the Pleiades are the 7 daughters of the Titan Atlas, but Estonians, Karelians, and Nordic people have a myth explaining the creation of Earth and the movement of the luminous stars clustered together in the heavenly sieve. The story goes that, while God was rowing a boat, the devil, who had assumed the form of a diving bird called a loon, was swimming after him. God asked him, "Who are you? Why are you following me?" "I am God," replied the devil. "If you are God, then who am I?" "You are the God of gods." "If you are God, and I am the God of gods, then we should create Earth, because there isn't any. Everything is covered with water." And the devil agreed. "Let us create Earth then. How should we do it?" "You are a loon. Dive to the bottom of the sea and bring up some earth." So the devil dove to the bottom and took a handful of earth, but as he began to ascend, it slipped away through his fingers. While the devil was diving, God froze a thick layer of ice over the water. The devil had great difficulty breaking through the ice, and many of his feathers were lost. God instructed him to try again. The devil dove once more, but again he could not bring anything up. Meanwhile, God grew the ice even thicker. The devil struggled to break through. When he finally broke through, God asked, "Did you bring any earth?" "I couldn't bring any up. It ran out of my hands." "Did you see anybody at the bottom?" God asked him. "Yes, there was a girl." "Now go down for a 3rd time and ask that girl for a handful of earth and for a blessing, and then it will come up." So the devil dove to the bottom again and asked the girl to give him earth and a blessing. And the girl blessed it and gave it to the devil. She said, "Take your earth and go." When he began the ascent, he saw the earth start to expand in his hands. So he put some of it into his mouth, thinking, "I will create an earth for myself." He swam upwards. God had grown the ice 28 inches thick, but somehow the loon managed to break through. He gave the earth to God, and he threw it once towards the south and 3 times in the opposite directions. But then the earth began to expand in the devil's mouth, and his cheek began to swell. He began to wail in pain. God asked, "Why are you whining? Why is your cheek swollen?" "I had earth in my mouth," explained the devil. God told him to spit it out, and this is how the rocks and mountains were created in the north.
I hope that you enjoyed the program. Thank you to the University of Michigan Museum of Natural History for hosting this concert. Please consider making a tax-deductible donation to support the Planetarium and Dome Theater. The sponsors for this project are the Eileen Weiser Excel Fund, the Arts Integrative Interdisciplinary Research Grant through Arts Engine, the Rackham Graduate Student Research Grant, and the Presser Foundation. Thank you so much to all of these organizations for helping to make this dream a reality. Thanks again for joining us and for your support. Go Blue.
Melissa, thank you so much for that. That was incredible. It was really spectacular. And I think you were able to see some of the comments that viewers were watching in the chat or writing in the chat as they were watching. Wonderful. Everybody, you can unmute your video now so we can see you and we can have a little conversation here. I've just invited people to put their questions in the chat, and I'd be happy to convey your questions to Melissa, but I have a question right out of the gate. How did you make the decision to go on to video when COVID shut down the performance that you'd been planning for so long? What was your thought process in deciding to go this direction and to create this amazing video for us?
Well, first of all, thank you, Amy. It's so kind. And it was just great to see all of the wonderful feedback in the chat. To your question about, converting this into a video format, number one, there's so much work that went into this program, and I thought hard about how we could maybe salvage some of the work that we had done because it felt like such a loss, and now virtual concerts are becoming more and more popular, and I just kind of wanted to jump in that bandwagon myself, and also just be able to create something interesting. The Duderstadt Video Studio is world renowned, and I've always been looking for a project to be able to create in there. So it's just worked out perfectly. Sometimes the stars align,
Absolutely, that's clear. So there is a question from Gordon. He's wondering if you have memorized all that music.
Mhm.
Yeah, good question. Typically, pianists do memorize all of their music unless it's very, very new. With this case, I memorized only certain pieces. So the Debussy was memorized. But the other pieces, like for example, the forehand music, we usually play with music because we just need to know what's going on. If someone gets lost, we need to be able to consult each other. I don't know if you noticed, but there was an iPad on the piano, and that's pretty standard nowadays for pianists to use iPads for their music. The most common question I get regarding that is, how do you turn the pages, or what do you do about that? And there's a Bluetooth pedal underneath the piano that I actually tap with my foot to advance the music. And so that there's a little learning process that goes behind that. But I do tap that, and that's how the pages get advanced.
That's good to know. I was wondering that. I'm glad you answered that question. There's a question in the chat from Celeste. She said, I loved the views of the stars above the piano. Did you deliberately choose to make the piano a generator of the images?
I'm assuming you're talking about, the images appearing from behind the piano. That was totally not intentional. You know, when I was looking at the visuals, I was picturing what they would look like, but I really didn't know what it would present as until I got into the studio. But some of those images, I mean, I was so pleased in post-production to see it and it looking like the sun was coming out of the piano or things like that. So no, not intentional, but I'm very pleased at how it turned out. It does look like things are sort of growing out of it.
Great. Here's another question. I'm curious, do you prepare the pieces differently for this mixed media format as opposed to performing them as standalone pieces?
Yeah, great. I'm not sure why my name is popping up a lot. I think maybe the link that I shared maybe associated my name, so I'm not sure who's asking the question. Feel free to add a comment in the chat. I'm curious who this is. As far as the performing as standalone works, I think the major difference is when I'm thinking about media, especially for this one. I chose pieces specifically with what visuals I had in mind, what visuals I was able to find. Like, for example, when we were talking. Well, some of them are back and forth, but I guess with Matt, when we were looking at the Milky Way, you know, I had chosen the Milky Way and we picked a visual to go along with that. Whereas when we were thinking about some of the other visuals, like I chose pieces from NASA, and like the Debussy was actually, the Faux d'Artifice was a last minute addition to the program because some of the pieces wouldn't really work without being inside the planetarium. So that's one that I found, you know, I was just looking at images from NASA because everything's copyright free, which is so wonderful. You know, there's such a wealth of beautiful imagery that's presented by NASA and observatories all over the world. So that's one that I thought, oh, that would be great to pair with a piece. What piece will I put with it? And so that was kind of the thought process behind that. It really depends.
Now I have a question for Matt. Matt, what was the plan for getting a grand piano into the Planetarium and Dome Theater? Were you going to have to remove some seats to do that?
We had a person, Melissa, remember his name, who came in to look at all of this, the possibilities and the weights, the door widths and so forth. And it was possible that the first two seats on the lower end would have had to come out. It would have been well worth the effort, of course. I was so excited to be able to have a piano in the dome in the front and just wait to see how people responded to that thing just sitting there. So I'm sad we couldn't do it. But it was pretty much a standard piano move plan. This guy knew himself really well, what he was doing. And we just never got the chance to try it out for real.
Yeah, it's really a shame, but this video is a wonderful consolation. And it's also something that will be able to be shared with others. We would have had a pretty small audience in the dome compared to what we can do with sharing the video. In fact, Nora Weber will be sending this recording out to all of our members and donors. And later we'll be sharing the recording, just the recording, through our Museum at Home platform. So many, many more people will be able to see this. I saw that there were questions from MJ, who is was a former student at the museum a few years ago. I won't try to count how many. Hi, MJ. She says, Melissa, have you ever battled carpal tunnel as a pianist? How far is your reach, octave, and how much? And then she also wants to know what your favorite Fantasia piece is. A few questions.
I love these questions. I'm very lucky to have never battled carpal tunnel. I've had tendinitis several times in the past, which is very common. It's a repetitive strain injury, and when you're practicing for hours a day, it's very common. Luckily, knock on wood, I've been okay recently. I hope that stays that way. My reach is about a ninth, so just a little bit past an octave. I have pretty small hands for a pianist, so there were several different kinds of changes I had to make in the music. You know, things that I had to, if I couldn't reach it, I would separate the notes, or I would just simply change it and try to take one note with the other hand. There are a few examples of that. And then my favorite Fantasia piece is definitely Rite of Spring.
Great.
The dinosaurs fighting is just, I can't ever unsee that.
So MJ,
my husband is also a former docent there at the museum, and he's a very great paleontologist now, and he gets very cringy when he watches that Fantasia sequence. He will point out every single thing that's wrong. It's kind of nightmarish, actually.
MJ, do you want to share what special moment in your life happened in the old planetarium at the old museum?
Oh,
Well, yeah, Matt's cringing already. Well, there's the professional side of things. When I blew up the
That's
star.
what I'd like you to stick to. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, the blowing up the star ball, that was special. Yeah, Matt's nodding his head. But of course, the other special moment was at the old museum on the 3rd floor, next to the bald eagle, is where Ron proposed to me. So
Nice.
we always have many wonderful memories, and Nora already commented on the pictures that we have back here. So, oh yes, many wonderful memories up there. Matt would probably say some not so great memories, things that would just kind of blow up when I was there. So Melissa, thank your lucky stars. I was nowhere near that planetarium as trying to fix things. They
Thanks,
said
MJ.
for Mega Jinx.
Thanks for sharing. Celeste was asking if we'll be able to see this performance live in the planetarium in the future. And I think that's an open question, right, Melissa?
We will see. Time will tell. I mean, I was also hoping that this video would sort of serve as a proof of concept, so that not only hopefully there comes a time where we may be able to put this on in person in the planetarium. But
Oh, Melissa, you just muted.
I think I leaned on my mouse. I would love to take this program on tour. So I'm starting a position at Webster University in St. Louis in the fall. And so my big plan is to try and get, in touch with people in the lovely planetarium there and try to get something going. But I will keep you all tuned in to what I'm up to.
That's great. And Celeste also said, Matt, you can't retire. So just another recognition of Matt's 32 years as planetarium manager at our museum. We're going to miss him so much, and we really appreciate all he did to make this program possible. So I think it's getting a little bit late now. We were going to spend about 10 minutes with questions. So again, I want to thank Melissa and Matt for putting this program together. It was spectacular. I'm really privileged to see it. And thank you everyone for attending tonight. You can watch your email for a questionnaire that Nora will send out so you can give us some feedback about it and about other programs you'd like to see. And also watch your email for a link so that you can watch the program again. So again, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good night and take care.
Thank you. Bye.
see you later.